Hello and welcome to Rewind Reviews, the podcast where we do reviews on films that are kind of nostalgic to us. Sometimes they hold up, sometimes they don't. This week we're doing a Matrix sequel. Have a guess. We're doing Matrix Reloaded, the film that simultaneously made everyone be done with the Matrix.
It's quite a feet, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Well, first of all,
a franchise that popular. This
tell you
movie,
what,
the most profitable of the franchise, because everyone turned up. They liked the first one. They liked The Matrix. Left this one on and went, don't need to see the third, because the third one did not make as much money at all.
I don't know about you,
Yes,
Daniel, but you know, we had literally discussed how we thought it would be better than we remembered, and we're going in. We were both going in quite positive.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but a little bit of that positivity, fair bit of it went as I was watching it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. There are still, I think it comes from the fact there are still a lot of good things in this film. I just think none of them are communicated very well. So
Yeah,
if you're willing to look real hard and put a lot of time and thought into it, there's a movie in here, but it needed 4 years of rewriting, like the first one.
Yeah,
got.
because what it is a collection of scenes. It's like it's action to pretentious talking to action to pretentious talking. But we will get there. Are there any memories? Because I saw this at the cinema. We were pumped. We were very, very excited.
Yep.
And we sat there, me and my mates. I think it might have been Phil's birthday. We didn't go to the cinema we usually went to, Dan. We went to a different cinema. Ooh. We're all excited. We're pretty early. We're pretty, within the first couple of days of release.
Yep.
And we're all sat there. We're waiting for the film to begin. And there's basically no seats, except there's a seat next to my mate Jim. And in walks this dude, head to toe Morpheus cosplay.
Amazing.
He's very happy with himself. He's very pleased. He's got the glasses. It's a dark cinema.
That was going to be my first question, Chris. Is he doing the glasses? Yep. Is he doing the?
He was doing
those
the glasses.
Glasses still boggle my mind. Like, they defy physics. I don't get it. Maybe I'm just thick.
Yeah, it's amazing. He looked brilliant.
Yep.
And you could feel on our row, I think there were 5 of us, and you could feel that 4 of us were just buzzing with excitement. And Jim almost audibly went, "Oh, for fuck's sake," because of course. And the rest of us are going, he's going to sit next to Jim. He's going to sit next to Jim. He sat next to Jim. He got in his armrest way. He was making noises. Jim describes The Matrix Reloaded as the most uncomfortable 2 hours of his life.
Yeah, I mean, I've met Jim a good couple of times now over the years. Most recently at your wedding, and I don't know him very well. Do you know what I mean? But I know him well enough to know the minute you started telling that story what the issue was going to be.
It was amazing. So much fun.
Like, he's a super nice dude, but like, he's obviously, I don't think he's, how's the word? That sad level of passionate we get about these things that normal people don't care about.
Yeah.
He just doesn't get that, I don't think. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's a normal person. He thrives on social interactions and things like that.
Yeah, he does like the Matrix.
Probably enjoyed the first Matrix movie. But the idea of somebody being into it enough to do a full cosplay probably alone made him uncomfortable. Or at least
he thoroughly
confused.
enjoyed. I'll tell you what nerdy thing he did enjoy. Him and I watching on a very hungover day in Magaluf, watching both parts of the Series 9 premiere of Doctor Who. He's never seen an episode of Doctor Who in his life, and he watched The Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar, and was like, "Oh, so I enjoyed that." And I was too hungover to know what was going on in that story. I was like,
"That's amazing,
Davros."
Yeah, that's hilarious. My story isn't as good as that because no one did cosplay. But again, definitely, like, I think it was opening day or maybe second day, because obviously opening day probably was a Friday, so school. So it would have been second. It would have been Saturday, probably, most likely. But basically, the earliest showing I could go to. And my normal group of friends couldn't make it. And I ended up going with another group of friends that was kind of like... You might have had this at school, Chris. So there was a group of friends that were your like main group of friends. You always saw and did everything with them. But there was like other smaller groups that you were friendly with and knew and hung out with occasionally. But not all the time. Just every now and then. I went to see The Matrix with like the skater kids, who, to my young mind, were the cool kids. You know, so that was like the group that I wasn't cool enough to be a part of all the time, but I could occasionally just sort of like, hello. You know,
when their mums had a go at them for not including you, or when they were, when you had a new toy or a new game, and that sort of real childhood cruelty.
But I went and saw it with them, and I just remember like,
that's why. I'll be honest with you. That's why I keep hanging out with you. I'm like, oh, Mum, I've got to do a podcast. She's like, you've made a commitment, okay? You got to see it through.
Do I need to ring Dan's mum?
Do we need to get together for a chat?
So I went with the different group of friends and all, and I remember coming out of the movie thinking that wasn't very good. But if they all enjoyed it, I'm definitely going to lie and pretend I enjoyed it.
My overriding thought, and I remember this so vividly, my overriding thought as I left Reloaded was, they'll make it make sense by Revolutions. It will all come together in Revolutions, and that'll be fine. It will all... I'm a bit confused. I don't really understand any of that. But it's going to come together in Revolutions, and hip, hip, hooray. Because obviously the first time you watch it... Yeah,
it is a roller coaster. There's so much spectacle in this movie.
But you're just like... What? Did he say there were 6 of them, huh? Like, you know what I mean? You can't rewind, you can't... And I remember watching this. I remember watching this on VHS. I remember obviously the DVDs. I remember me and my mate Tom watching all 3 over the course of one weekend. I vividly remember that. And I remember on that rewatch, it came together a bit more. In my head, I was like, right, okay, so he's the 6th thing, you know, all of that sort of stuff came together a bit more.
But I think with this film, it's so muddled that I honestly think that even when you think you understand it, you don't. I'm gonna sound like a real loser here, but one of the first bits of writing I think I did in my younger days was Matrix fanfiction. In fact, the only time I've ever done fanfiction ever. And
that's actually what stopped that's when it got too far for the skater kids. They read the fanfiction and were like, no, we're done.
Well, the fanfiction was years later when I'd gotten a chance to rewatch these movies. I'll say years later, like, you know, once the DVDs were out, I was able to rewatch them and dissect them and try to make sense of it. And I think I got a lot more out of them at that point than I did in my initial cinema watch, for similar reasons as yourself, I suspect. And I wrote a piece of fanfiction which I now realise doesn't fit because of what's actually said in this movie. So my fanfiction was about the previous incarnation of the One. But the way they describe it here, what I wrote can't possibly match with it. Yet I thought I had a good handle on this movie. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't... Yeah. Because in my head, the previous version of the One wasn't necessarily Neo as a person, which is still probably true, but I had them like meeting a young Morpheus and all sorts of nonsense that just doesn't fit. That like it might, and it just goes to show how even after watching the movie a bunch of times and a bunch of other stuff, like, doesn't really fit. And it doesn't fit because I didn't take everything in, because this movie and the way it disseminates information is poor. It's really poor. Yeah. And you can sit there having analysed every single word and drawn all your conclusions and go, well, it actually means this, this, and this. And I can say, well, that's all very clever. And I like that, and those are good ideas. The movie doesn't make it clear enough for me to just sit down and watch and take that in. And at the end of the day, one of the key aspects of filmmaking is being able to communicate information through visual medium to your audience. And if you can't successfully do that, it really doesn't matter how good the ideas are. I'll be honest with you. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like this movie gets so lost in the seas of its own bullshit and all of philosophy, which is all very interesting, and I'm sure the Wachowskis could sit down and talk me through this, and I'd be absolutely blown away. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure the movie has all this deeper meaning, and there's some stuff I picked up on this viewing that I've never picked up on before that we'll talk about in a bit, that I'm like, actually, it's really impressive. But in fact, I can talk about an example of it now, very briefly. Let's just talk about Neo's character arc in this movie, because in this movie, Neo, a character that in the previous movie said he doesn't believe in fate because he doesn't like the idea of not being in control, he in this movie rejects what the architect offers him, because the architect offers him this option of the thing I know you're going to do and saving Trinity. And Neo goes, well, fuck you, I'm going to go save Trinity. But the funny thing about this is the movie, up to that point, is about Neo, well, one, being taken out of all the action scenes because he's a god now and that would spoil the fun. But other than that, he spends this movie specifically without purpose, waiting to be given one by the Oracle. He's like, okay, I'm the one, now what? We'll wait for the Oracle to tell you what to do. So he spends this whole movie and waited to be told what to do. That's his arc in this film. And instead, in the end, he doesn't see meaning or purpose in starting the cycle again when it's put in front of him, and instead chooses a purpose for himself, saving Trinity, and hopefully, in his mind, having a good crack at saving mankind later. But the movie's so obtuse that all of those like cool character ideas, they're hard to see. It's like you're looking at the movie through a piece of glass that's fogged up. And I think the script would have been... If the script could have been clearer about the nature of these things, less lost in vague philosophical ideas, and spending a lot of weird time in the space between what the characters actually think. It spends a lot of time in the maybe this movie. You know, maybe Neo is thinking this right now. I don't know. I think there's a really great movie somewhere in here. I really do. I believe that. I do. It's so clear, having watched the first one and hearing the story about them having 5 years of rejection and polishing the script. It's so clear what this movie needed. And it's that. It's more time on these scripts. More time making these ideas completely clear. Because I do think there's some really interesting stuff on it. And that Neo's plot is balanced against Smith, who thinks he's found a purpose. He's the opposite of Neo for much of this movie. He talks about purpose a lot. You know, I don't know. I get it. As soon as you scrape back the top layer of this movie, there's really interesting stuff in there. But it's lost. Absolutely lost. So yeah, deep rewrites, please.
Yeah.
That was a rant, wasn't it? I'm sorry.
No. Just a side admin. I should have already mentioned. The toilet is still running continuously. So again, if anyone could hear that, apologies. And Jess has just very kindly nipped in with some fruit. And hello, can you still? You alright? Hello?
Maybe Chris has muted me.
No, I haven't muted you, Dan. Dan? Hello? I can still hear you. You can't hear me. We need to restart this bad boy.
Hello?
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 Hello? Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Hello?
Hello? Like, I don't know why, because I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me.
That's weird. Oh, that was weird. I'm sorry, Chris.
I hadn't like touched my phone or anything, so I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, maybe that was me, or maybe I knocked something, maybe I muted something. I was checking that while I was saying hello. So yeah, sorry, that was quite a rant I went on. I am sorry.
No, it's fine. I was just saying, little admin, the toilet's still running, so apologies if anyone can hear that. And also,
sorry, after my big rant, you're like, I still got. We haven't started properly yet, Dan. Let me at least explain the toilet situation.
Oh no, it was just because it was because the door got open, because Jess has very kindly brought me some fruit and yogurt, which I might try and have to subtly eat, because if fruit and yogurt sits on the side for an hour and a half,
judging by my first rant, you'll get some time. Fucking hell.
No, I completely agree with everything. I just love that because usually we have to cut it because like we just don't talk. But I listen to it and potentially keep in just the series of you going hello and me going hiya. And you going, I can't hear you, and me going, I can hear you.
phone clearly indicated we were still connected. So I'm...
no, we were.
So I normally, at that point, I'm giving up, mate. I'm calling you back, But I was... Because it said we were still connected and the time was still ticking on. I was like, I'm going to keep... Anyway, sorry. That's hilarious.
Anyway, that was amazing.
There's a chance that might get cut if I find it's too much. Or there's a chance that I might not remember that it's there by the time I get to editing this and it just stays in for that reason. So there you go. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. So for me, there's a good movie in here, but you've got to... There's a real way to shit. It's very obscured.
Yeah, and to do our, because we have a habit of doing like recommendations on top before spoilers, although we kind of already got into it. But I do recommend it. I do think it's it's worth the fun and the madness and the experiment of watching it again. I absolutely do think that. One of my I agree with you on the character stuff, and I got part of me wonders whether they just didn't care about that. They wanted people to have to dig a bit and work, because one of my big things all the way along, and then on this rewatch I went, well, maybe you could argue it's this, was I just never felt they really explained, major spoilers, so go watch this movie, come back, they never really explained how he was able to have powers in the real world. And then it's like, well, I think the idea is that Smith is getting stronger and stronger, so to compensate, they're making Neo stronger and stronger, and if the machines are connected to the Matrix, and in the Matrix, Neo's got all this power, in the eyes of the machines, which is what he, stops with his hand, Neo has that power. So it's not that he's got literal powers in the real world. He's got powers against the machines in the real world, because he's got powers against the machines which are getting stronger and stronger in the Matrix, and the machines recognise that. But I have to work for that conclusion.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that fits. Because I kept thinking about, Is it that he's so embroiled in the machine code now that he can deactivate machines? He's so sort of linked into their systems.
Yeah, that's sort of the same thing, isn't it? That's sort of what I mean. That's a better way of phrasing it, I think.
Yeah, because the way you suggested that the machines were kind of just letting him, because they're like, well, he's powerful in the Matrix, I guess we better shut down if he asks us to.
No.
I don't know if that's what you meant, but it's how it came across.
No, it's not that. I meant that encoding that power has bled into the real world of the machines.
Yes.
Not that he's got physical. I don't know if we see in the sequel. The theory's fucked if in the sequel we see him pick up a person or a knife or something in that way.
I remember the third one the least, because I found myself going, does that get explained? Because one thing that I noticed in this rewatch that it just lit a fire in my brain that I never even thought about before. He says to Neo, if you go through that door, which we've already established is the door every previous incarnation of the One has been through, he can select a handful of humans and rebuild Zion.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. Does that mean the previous incarnation of the One is in Zion? Having started it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the other thing that I noticed that made me go, well, wait a minute, that makes my fanfiction completely nonsense.
It's all about the fanfiction. So what was... Well,
the other thing in my fanfiction was my previous version of the One was Sarif. And it was cool. The idea that the Oracle had chosen the program to protect her and had designed that program herself based on the previous incarnation of the One, which is why he can go toe-to-toe with Neo. That's a really cool idea. Again, disproven in this movie when she very explicitly states that all these programs come from the source.
Yeah.
Did you see what I mean? Young Dan couldn't, even when he thought he had a grasp enough on this stuff to be like, oh, I got this, I can write some fan fiction. He had no idea.
And I'll make this point and then get your view on it, because I need to nip out and get flannel down because I've dropped a spoonful of yogurt everywhere.
Dear Lord.
All over me.
Do I need to call your mum?
Yeah, maybe. Although she'll be like, yeah, he can't fucking eat. My big thing that I hadn't ever appreciated, especially watching them so close to each other, visually, this doesn't hold up as well as the first film.
Nope.
Because it's trying to do a lot more. It's I used the word cartoon and then got kind of like, oh, maybe that's unfair when we discussed the first one. This one's a fucking cartoon. Like, some of the action and stuff is so cartoonish and over the top that it's trying to do such spectacle that the special effects just don't hold up. There's a shot where basically, and a lot of the Freeway stuff is incredible. I mean, as an adult watching it, you're like, fucking Neo's a lot slower than he was at the beginning of this film, isn't he? But whatever.
Or the end.
Yeah, but yes, exactly. But we can talk about that. But the Freeway Chase is one of the best sequences in the film. But there's even in that, there's moments. There's one overhead shot of them like going under a bridge when Morpheus and Agent are on top of the lorry, and like it goes under the bridge, and it looks like a video game. Like I don't mean to be a dick, and like obviously
there's a shot in the they call it the Burley Brawl, which I hate, but the Smith fight in the playground. There's a shot. Well, there's actually 2 or 3 shots in that are completely 100% CGI, but it's the one where he jumps up, spins around, holding the bar. That's almost entirely CGI and looks it. It's like a shot from a video game. I was like, give me a controller.
Yeah, exactly, and it's like, CGI changes, technology changes. Like, it's not necessarily the movie's fault, and I'm sure a whole lot of it back in the day looked absolutely spectacular. I'm not criticizing it, but I'm making the point that what's interesting is when you watch them back to back, because the first one isn't trying to do that. It hasn't aged as badly from an effects point of view as this one has, which has aged quite badly in some. Like we've said, we've got 2 examples there that just feel like a video game. That fight and the fight outside as they're trying to get the keymaker and stuff. A lot of that feels very CGI heavy, and also it was much more subtle with it with the first film. Like, we had the training montage, and then we had the fight, which had a bit of kung fu, but it felt like it was used sporadically. Unfortunately, there's so many fight scenes in this that they begin to feel a little bit repetitive. There's not much visually different between the playground fight and the fight, when he's fending off the guys when the others try and get the keymaker.
Yeah. When he's in the sort of like that lobby foyer area of the Merovingians' home.
Yes, yeah.
I love that fight, but yeah, agreed. I think you've a lot of really good points there, and I think you're exactly right. And I think the problem, if you don't mind me speculating, Chris, is their choice to go very, very practical, but then insert entirely CGI shots. I think if we were CGI enhancing stuntmen on wires, because I think all the stuff on wires looks great. I know the physics are obviously massively wrong, but that's the fucking point. The point is they could, their physics-defying abilities. So the problem, I think, comes in when they stop doing wire work and switch because they want to do something fun with the camera while the action's happening. So the one where Neo has the pole, the camera zips into the center of a big pile of Smiths in a way that a physical camera could not do. And then as Neo puts the pole in the ground, lifts himself up, and then kicks them all in the face in a circle, the camera zips around with him. And you physically couldn't do that with a real-life camera rig. It's just it would be in the way of the actor going round on the wires. So I understand that during these fight sequences, they went, oh, I'd love to do that. We can't do that practically. Let's do it with CGI. But the problem is, if you've shot the rest of the scene practically, then the CGI bit really fucking stands out. Like, it's like a sort of... And the other thing, and this is just unfortunately the way these things go, filmmakers hadn't realised yet, and learnt the lesson yet, that CGI humans are a bad idea. It happened in the Spider-Man movies, it happened here. A CGI person moves in a weird floaty way that doesn't have the weight of a human being, and physically doesn't... The cloth, the face, it all just doesn't quite look right to a human eye. And I think in recent years they've realised this, and they'll CGI physical objects, spaceships, metal bending as things explode. All that stuff can be CGI'd.
Or monsters like Hulk and Thanos, etc.
Sure. But when it comes to like a human, they struggle. They really do. And even now, I remember seeing it was the second Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. There's a shot where he jumps off a building, and they obviously just either didn't have the time, money, or whatever to actually put Tom Holland on wires for that one shot, and it stands out really badly. It just, the weight of it is wrong, and that's hilarious to think in a movie like The Matrix, where the gravity and physics are being shifted all the time. It's still the characters they feel floatier than they do in all the other shots. It's actually about matching the floatiness, and it still feels wrong and stands out and doesn't work. And it's a fucking problem, and it comes up multiple times in this movie. There are at least 4, maybe 5 occasions where I really went, "Oh, I know why you've done that. You couldn't physically put a camera there, but maybe you just shouldn't have done it."
Because
looks rough. Looks real rough. It definitely some
it.
memories of watching Spider-Man 3. Particularly the scene where Peter Parker fights the new Goblin in the opening sequence of when he's reaching out for the wedding ring and stuff. Like, some of the shots in that look great, some of the shots in that look horrendous, and that's the reason.
And it's difficult because there is a need to ramp up, especially when you end your first movie with the lead becoming Superman. You want to see some fights. You want to see the payoff of that, and fair play to them for going for the payoff. But it's very difficult for the film to hold up in quite the same way, especially from an effects point of view. And then when you add the fact that it is a shitload of set piece, pretentious talk, set piece, pretentious talk, set piece, pretentious talk, it gets, you kind of watch it and are like, oh no.
There is a lot. The thing is, I think a lot of the talk, there's good stuff in there. That's the problem. It's just also not very blended very well. And the thing I the thing I complimented in the last movie, that sort of cause and effect sequence of events. They go to do this, which leads them to this, which leads them to this. There's a bit of that in this movie, because I feel like the entire freeway chase it's like a downward spiral. As soon as they make the attempt to get the keymaker from the Merovingian, they're on the path to where this movie ends, and it does sort of escalate from there. But once they have the keymaker, they randomly create an overly complicated scenario of obstacles from what I can tell, for the only reason being is to separate the teams so that Neo can't just win. Because they have to go like, well, surely Neo could take out these 2 facilities in a few seconds. They're like, he could, but he would have to do it at the same time because we have 300 seconds. So we're going to have to split into teams. He can't be in 2 places at once, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh, okay, you're creating stakes so Neo can't just, go and win. But here's the thing. After the freeway chase, you don't need it. The action sequences that happen between the freeway chase and Neo and Morpheus being in that corridor with the keymaker leading to Neo getting to the thingy, unnecessary.
Yeah, I think
doesn't add anything. Confuse the flow of the plot. Why not just get the keymaker and then have the keymaker take you to the end? There's like a 10-minute section of the movie that just doesn't need to be there. You can contrive another reason for Trinity to be in danger. She could still be in danger from the freeway chase.
Yeah, but there is an element of I did like that. I did, that shot where she lands and it blows up. I did like that. I was like, okay, we're here. Like, this is some plotting. This is some story.
But you can still have that. Why not? Okay, here's a solution, Chris.
That's fair.
The freeway chase ends. Trinity still not been able to return to a phone. But Neo has to get to the source. Baddies come into Zion, right? So they communicate somehow. They seem to be able to communicate. I've never been, And she says, don't worry about me. I'm getting to a phone. I'm getting out. He's like, do not come back in. Get to a phone. Get out. You stay out. For the same reason that we have that conversation back on the ship. When they get out and then go back in immediately. Neo and Morpheus are the keymaker. Go to get into the architect's thing. Trinity's on her way out. The only phone she can get to is inside of a building. She jumps down and does the whole explosion thing. And then she goes in to get the phone, and that's where she meets the agent and has the fight. So the same sequence can play out almost exactly. We just don't stop the movie dead for them to come out of the Matrix, only to go back in again and spend 4 or 5 minutes explaining the convoluted plan and timings of stopping this building and blowing this thing up while this thing happens. It's the only way the Keymaker will be able to get them in. Like, all that nonsense can just fucking go, because it doesn't create stakes. It doesn't do anything other than overly complicate the final act of the movie.
Yeah, because also it adds real drama of, like, has the Keymaker done enough to, you know what I mean? Whereas his death at the moment is like, it just feels very, well, we've achieved the goal with you. Whereas if he died in the motorway sequence, in the freeway sequence, you'd be like, well, shit, what happens now?
Right.
But then maybe he's like handed Morpheus the key or something.
But fine, fine. Like, you know, that's also okay. They don't know how to use it. Maybe there's still a challenge there. But like, I just feel like they artificially throw in a bunch of stuff that hasn't been previously set up. Because what was great about the conclusion of the first movie is we already understood enough about the rules to go, oh, Neo has to get to a phone. There's clearly not one nearby. That one's just been shot. He's gonna have to make a run for it. We know that the second we see the phone get shot. In this movie, they achieve the goal of Keymaker, and then it's like, and now it's a video game, and we have to achieve this and this and this. Your quest is to destroy a power plant, and then destroy a thing. You know, it just feels very, like, arbitrary. And, like, the movie just inventing, you know, moving the goalpost for the characters so there's more action to happen. It just feels like the movie going, you've achieved the goal of the Keymaker. Now I guess you're going to fetch me a cup of tea. What will that do? It's just another quest for you to go on. A quest. You know,
maybe that's probably why it feels like it's too many action sequences as well. Because, you know, in many films you have like 2, 3 big set pieces, and you've got the playground and the motorway scene would have been enough.
and the fight at the Merovingian's house, which I also think
the
is
fight
excellent.
in the Merovingi.
Yeah.
So you've kind of got all those things.
You
and
don't
then
need
I think
that last action sequence. You don't.
No. And then that last scene could just be a really powerful, if it was, you know, slightly clearer dialogue maybe, really powerful scene between Neo and the architect.
Yeah, now, and I get what they were doing with the architect. He's supposed to be like the ultimate in, you know, sort of didactic, practical computer programming. He's, you know, he swallowed a thesaurus, and, you know, I nearly caught. So there's an old running joke between me and some friends calling it a thesaurus, like on purpose, doing it badly to piss off a teacher at school, and I nearly called it a thesaurus then, which is really bad.
I like the word. I like the word synonym. Or however you say it. I tend to think cinnamon.
Cinnamon! I would love some cinnamon, Chris. I've
That's
got a cup of tea here that could really use a dash of cinnamon. No, I'm kidding. You would never put cinnamon in a tea. That would be monstrous.
I reckon once a day I Google a word and add the word synonym to try and find another way of saying that word.
I do like doing that also. There's like a website that if you put in a word, it gives you like all the other related words.
Yeah, I think it's thesaurus.com, isn't it?
The thesaurus.com? Yeah, maybe.
Yes, and I get that too. And you know, if you're really concentrating and you've watched it a few times, you can follow it. But I think I get that idea, and I like that idea.
Exactly.
But it's done at the expense of people following it and it making sense. There's no need for him to say vis-a-vis.
Sometimes you
ergo.
have. Yeah, sometimes you've got to make exceptions for an audience. You just do. I respect that they stuck to their vision and just did it. But if they'd have had another 4 years of struggling to get this movie greenlit, they'd have made the same cuts they made to the first one that would have cleaned it up and made it a classic. I believe that.
And also, don't get me. Also, they were slightly fucked by Will Ferrell. And that MTV Awards parody, which was brilliant, and it's very hard to watch that scene and not think about that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, external circumstances have also, you know, retroactively screwed them a bit on it. But like you say, make some exceptions for the audience to make it a bit cleaner. Because the idea of it is great. The idea of this is a loop, the idea of, like, that makes Zion so tragic. The idea that actually this is the 6th time and what these people are just fed a lie. And that's how they do it.
And the idea that it's like, it's an element. And the idea that it's a system of control, another system of control. That premise of one of the ways the machines control humans is by letting them think they're resisting, but actually it's all part of the system. That is genius. That is
powerful.
truly genius. Do you know what I mean? What do people think some of these fucking when governments allow you to go and protest, but it's got to be this, it's got to be that, and you go and you think you're making your difference, but really it's just we've given you, the government have allowed you, they've given you the space to go be heard, and then they're just ignoring you completely. I don't know. It's like these it just feels very reflective of of reality. There often are systems for complaint and whatever and petitions and stuff, but actually they don't make a bit of difference. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but just that premise is very, very clever, and it is there.
That's genius.
Yeah. Should we talk about some of that stuff then? I guess so. Oh, it's so complicated. So yeah, let's talk about. So one of the bigger complaints about this movie is related to that. The idea that after all that, Neo's the one. Does it not undercut the first movie to basically say he's not the one at all? He's one of 6. Number 1, but number 2, he's also not destined to save anything. He was pre-selected to give humanity false hope. Yeah. Or is it a self-fulfilling prophecy? Does it come back to that moment from the first movie with the lamp? Not the lamp, the vase, where he knocks it over and the Oracle says, would you have still knocked it over if I hadn't said anything? But by labeling Neo the one, did they accidentally actually make him the one? Did they create their own destruction, the machines?
That's something that, not to, because I'm kind of making an additional point to your point, apologies, as opposed to dissecting it, but that's another good example, the whole Oracle thing, where they sort of play with, can we trust her, should we trust her?
Yes.
But that in a way isn't the more interesting question, because you've already done the first film, where you've set her up as someone they emphatically do trust. So the why they trust her is way more interesting to me. She's clearly never been seen in the real world. They know she's part of the Matrix, or at least have a good guess of it, or at least you'd think would ask. So why do they trust the Oracle? Why do they put so much faith in her? Why does Neo start this film waiting to speak to the Oracle, even though he thinks she lied to him or told him what he needed to know in the first film? It's one of those things where the movie doesn't give itself time to explore those things.
Right. Well, this movie has a really interesting theme related to that, because a lot of this movie's theme is that it's not and shouldn't be us versus them. It should be about living to work together. So Neo has a chat with a counsellor, one of the high counsellors from Zion. I don't know, a third into the movie, right? And he goes, I come down to engineering all the time because I like to look at these machines that actually keep us alive. Air filtration, water, heat, lights, all come from machines. And that, by the way, helps back up from the previous movie about what would have happened if the machines had gotten into Zion's digital infrastructure. They could have turned all that off and let the humans starve and, die of cold and lack of water and stuff. So that's what the stakes were from the first movie, for anyone wondering. Also, we don't know why the machines dropped that plot early. But the what it comes down to, what the premise of that ends up being, is the councillor sort of says, in a weird way, we need each other. The machines need us because we supply them with power, and we need machines because without them we can't do things like have water and clean drinking water and heat and light. So that's a really interesting conversation, and a conversation that made me come up with a weird little theory, by the way, that maybe he is the previous version of the one, that counsellor guy, and he was guiding Neo in that direction. But then that conversation comes up again later on when he's talking to the Oracle, and she literally, he says, "How can we trust you if you're part of this system. And she sort of said, I can't remember her exact response, but, there are lots of old programs that are part of the system made by machines, but they do have choice. And as Neo puts it in that end section with the thing, the problem is choice in many ways. And Smith, a big example of a machine choosing. And she was sort of saying to Neo, I think, just like you are not humanity, I am not the machines. But again,
sure that comes back in the third film. I think there's like a kid who's like the child of two programs. I think I might be wrong. Yeah,
no, you're right. Yeah, one of the first things that happens in the next movie is doesn't Neo wake up in he's in a purgatory,
train station.
Station. Yeah, I don't remember how he gets there, but because in this movie he's very much out of the Matrix. Oh, that's it. His mind is trapped there while his body is unconscious on the Nebuchadnezzar, or not the Nebuchadnezzar, because Nebuchadnezzar go boom. But yeah, that's so yeah, I think that's. But again, another example. Lots of really cool, interesting ideas and concepts that you've got to really fucking look for to pick up on.
Yeah, well, completely.
Yeah.
And I can see why, because obviously now we're able to theorize and understand it and talk about it. But back in the day, I didn't have a Scooby. I'll be honest, I was lost. I was proper lost because it doesn't make this stuff accessible. I don't think it makes it accessible. You have to, and again, maybe you're meant to work for it. Maybe that's the point. And fair enough. That's a bold decision. That's a bold decision and some bold storytelling. But here's the thing: it's 2 of 3. It's not 1 of 1 or 1 of 3. And I think you made a really accessible movie with The Matrix. Some really complicated ideas, but as we talked about and praised in the last episode,
balanced against being complicated but still communicated effectively.
Yes, and made really accessible. So I think from a filmmaking point of view and from avoiding backlash and avoiding people saying the sequels are crap, you can't make the move to go, well, this is just going to be a bit more intellectual and complex because it's the second film in a series. And, I can't think of many examples. Dan and I absolutely love one of our favourite Star Wars films is The Last Jedi. Controversial movie because it shifted things too much. It's obviously a really hard balance. You don't want to make the same movie. That's also a problem. But I think to basically change the accessibility is a really bold but really silly move. That's never going to go well.
Yeah. Well, the Wachowskis in an interview following this many years later, they didn't do press for this movie or the sequel at the time. That was part of the contract when they agreed to do it. Isn't that strange? The Lana and Lily both basically were offered to do this, and the stipulation they included was that they wouldn't have to do any media interviews. Fascinating choice. I think the idea that the work will speak for itself. We're going to get asked a bunch of stupid questions if we do interviews for these movies. Some people have read it as they knew they were bad and were like, we don't want to have to deal with the consequences of this. I disagree. I think they didn't want to get stupid questions from people who didn't get their movie because they knew it was going to be complicated. That's
nobody involved. No filmmakers, no directors, nobody involved in this shit wants to make a bad movie.
No,
nobody, and it doesn't seem like there was a lot of studio interference here. No, so, sometimes directors get screwed over by studios. Rumors are David Ayer, Suicide Squad, etc. But I don't think that's what I don't think anyone would. They'd either come out and say that, like David Ayer did, or they wouldn't just go, oh no, I'm not going to talk about it because I think it's crap.
Yeah. So I got distracted there with the fact they did do interviews. What I was going to say is what they did just do later on when they did talk about this movie is described it as deconstructionist. It takes apart and subverts everything you thought to be true from the first movie. And in principle, that's fine, but I do think there's a sect of the audience who basically, they liked the first movie and felt that by turning everything from the first movie on its head, it was a slight betrayal of everything they thought they'd sort of come to know about the world. Making Neo not the one was a very controversial decision. Very. That was a big point of contention. It's one of the biggest criticisms I see of this movie when I was doing some research in the last day or two, is that people sort of were saying, well, Neo turns out to not be the one. Like, what a fucking waste of time. Like,
yeah.
But
Did you bump up against that as a kid? Because I don't remember. Because I just I guess that my interpretation was that he was the one. He was just a sixth version of it.
Well, yes. So whereas, funnily enough, I can't speak for my original interpretation because I don't recall how I felt about it. But my interpretation of it now is actually he is the one, because in the end we know he fixes this.
And he breaks. He chooses not to let it burn.
Yeah. So by breaking the cycle in this movie and being the first to do that, he really is the one. There were 5 false starts before him. But he's told here by the architect what he needed to hear. It's almost like the first one. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that the machines have, by allowing humanity these to keep them in line, these resistances, because there'll always be those who buck the system and try to break free of the system. By giving them the wiggle room to do that, thinking they're doing it on their own, but actually the machines are really in control, and after a certain amount of years, when it gets too big, they just crush it and start again. Which, again, not explicitly explained properly in the movie, but is a great idea. By doing that, they've accidentally given them too much leeway with the wand thing, and then Neo has ended up, is going to end up actually ending the war. So he, in a weird way, for me, certainly now, I'm like, well, no, he is the one. It's just, there were lots of fake the ones first.
Yeah.
But I suppose I know the ending. When people first saw this movie, they didn't. So I know that he does end up saving the day in the next movie.
They got that bizarre trailer at the end.
I didn't stick around for that. I know that's there because I remember it from when I watched it the first time.
It's just weird because they do that thing. It's like spoilers to mention it again, but spoilers for Doctor Who. The first episode of the new series of Doctor Who has just started, and the cliffhanger is basically a world-destroying force heading towards the Doctor. And obviously, we know she's going to get out of that situation, obviously. But the trailer that they then aired features the Doctor just out of that situation. And I'm like, it really undercuts your cliffhanger. Like, just edit a trailer that doesn't include the Doctor, as so many other things have done in the past. Mm-hmm. And they kind of do that. There's just a lot of Neo in the Matrix and outside of the Matrix. And it's like, of course he's going to wake up. But it's actually a really good cliffhanger, having him led there unconscious next to Smith, also unconscious, and it just completely undercuts the cliffhanger to then show a trailer of them both not in that situation.
Yeah, agreed. We should talk about Smith a little bit. I think the Smith plot in this is pretty clever. The idea that Neo kind of broke his code a bit and might have accidentally copied some of his powers onto Smith or something when he killed him in the first movie. And that moment in the beginning of this movie when Neo is handed his earpiece and he's told that he set him free is chilling. And then Smith finding a way into the real world by infecting a real human that then picks up the phone and escapes. So part of Smith's consciousness is in the real world now. Fuck me, that's clever. That's fucking brilliant.
Clever.
Conceptually, even in execution, I think it's one of the clearer ideas communicated in the movie. As a science fiction concept, that's fucking genius.
It is,
and
I loved it, and it adds because of the terror and the horror it adds, because suddenly the world that was at least safe from him is no longer safe from him.
Right.
But again, do you think they need to give you a bit more? I assume it's because, he's able to do that because to some degree he's a computer program and the brain is like a computer. So that program has latched on to the computer of the brain. But again, I'm guessing, do you think they need to sort of, or maybe they say it in the sequel, but do you know what I mean? Do you think they need to...
Maybe. I kind of was on board with that one pretty... Like I didn't even think twice about that one when I was watching it.
I didn't as a kid. I didn't as a kid at all, but I did this time. How's that working?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I guess that is the other problem: is how do you know as a writer or even as a person reviewing a thing like this, you know where the line is in terms of information that the audience do and don't need. For like, if I was rewriting this script, that's the bottom of my list of things to sort of clear up, because I think that kind of is self-explanatory. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was just personal. Maybe I just, for whatever reason, that idea clicked very quickly for me, and other audience members were like, sorry, what? That could use some more explanation, please. It's hard to know what information people will disseminate from something like this and what they won't. Again, because it's also complicated and often needlessly complicated, I think. I think that's the issue, isn't it? I don't mind complicated. I don't care for needless complication.
Well, in that case, Dan, I tell you what's not complicated.
Yeah.
What's not complicated at all? Big old orgy.
Yeah. That's not complicated. Let's talk about the orgy. There's an orgy. I forgot the movie had an orgy.
I didn't. I remembered that very vividly.
Yeah. There's two things from this movie that I'd forgotten and purged from my brain. And then I watched it yesterday morning, and both things I went, I should text Chris about that. I went, no, we can chat about it on the podcast. And then
we'll get to the second one.
Chris.
Go on. Explain then. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just gonna say Chris then texts me in the evening, so I resist the urge. And I'm not suggesting that's better or worse. I just happened to decide no, because there were two factors for me. It was the morning, and I knew you'd probably watch it in the evening. I didn't want to remind you before you'd had a chance to see it that this was in it. But then, obviously, Chris gets to watch the movie in the evening and is fairly confident that I've seen it, because obviously it's the end of the night now. We're reviewing this like first thing in the morning. So Chris just texts me at 9 in the evening, 2 words, orgasm cake.
That was because I remembered the orgy, and I was quite intrigued because I remember it feeling quite well. Not the, and it's not technically an orgy, but not the kind of the sexy dancing.
It's an orgy.
In Zion.
Come on, but those people all boned after that dance party. I'm telling you now, that's an orgy. That's the beginnings of an orgy.
I do remember, and there's nothing wrong with it. Although it doesn't really fit in this movie, but I do remember, the Trinity Neon stuff.
It's
the Trinity Neo stuff being quite erotic, and I was very intrigued I went into this review going, is that as because I was thinking to myself, with the rating, there can't be any boob or anything, but so is it that bad? Is it just my teenage mind's memory of it? What's going on there? So I definitely knew about that. I tell you what, though, I had no orgasm cake. Took me completely by surprise. Because it starts, and as an adult, you're like, is he hinting that she's having an orgasm? Is that what this is? That can't be what this is.
It goes from him verbally hinting at it in a particularly subtle way, I felt, to the most overt image of a version of this woman's crotch in code glowing.
And then she dashes off to the toilet. It's crazy. It is nuts what happens there. I could not believe it. I was literally like, huh.
I'll be honest with you. I love
madness.
I love the fight with the Merovingians' crew. Both the freeway chase and the fight in the sort of foyer. I think they're great. I think they're some of the best sort of action sequences this franchise has to offer. This movie actually contains 3 amazing set pieces that way. The Merovingian one, the freeway, and the Burley Brawl, as they call it, the Smith fight. the the sequence that leads to the fight with the Merovingian, though, is absolute tripe top to bottom. It adds nothing to any of the wider concepts. It doesn't help clear up any nonsense, any of the bullshit at all. It is waffle, needless waffle with no point, no purpose. Every other conversation that's in this movie that's a big philosophical conversation, I can tell you something that I've taken from it that's helped me understand and informed the rest of the movie or the world. Is it clear? Not always. In fact, very rarely. But I at least can analyse it and see a point to it. The entire conversation with the Merovingian is utter fucking waffle.
You know what? It needed to be on the nose because, you can make a loose cause-effect Neo-Trinity argument. But you know what that speech should have been about? Should have been about choice. It should have literally been about choice and then relate to Neo having to make his choice at the end. That's what that speech should have been.
Well, he does at one point say choice is an illusion. He specifically says choice is an illusion created by the powerful or whatever. So his perspective on it is that choice doesn't exist at all. But that's one line of what then becomes a completely different waffly piece of nonsense about nothing of consequence.
I tell you what it shouldn't have included, Dan. A scene where a woman has a bit of cake and has an orgasm in code. Like, it's just not, it's not needed. It's so weird. It's so weird. So what was your feeling?
And the sequence where the Merovingian's, I assume, life partner, I'm not sure what her exact role is, but wants Neo to kiss her the way he kisses Trinity.
Oh yeah, that was weird as well.
That, again, I would, honestly, that Merovingian sequence needs to be Neo and the gang arrive, they sit down to talk to him, he does a little bit of talk about choice, sort of elaborates on some of the ideas that aren't as clear in the rest of the movie, just, gives some more context for some of those thoughts and ideas and some of the existentialism or whatever, and then he refuses to give them the keymaker, and it just devolves into a fight. You get the fight, you get the freeway chase sequence, they get the keymaker. We don't need the stuff with his wife. We don't need the stuff with the orgasm cake. We just don't need that betrayal or any of that nonsense. It's absolutely irrelevant to anything. It doesn't add anything to anything. All it does is make characters that we already don't care about, because they're random new characters that are going to be gone in 10 minutes, have a lot more backstory than they need.
It is, again, though, a good idea. The notion that Neo and Trinity's love is so pure that those in the Matrix are jealous of it. Like, they see that, they know that what they're experiencing isn't real, and to them, the most real thing they could see and even try and experience is Neo and Trinity's love. And she, given what she has... Oh, yeah, because there's also that! I can see the lipstick. I don't have any lipstick on my lips. She wasn't kissing your lips. I was like, what the fuck? I do not remember. Oh, I've remembered another one. This one, I think, is the most uncomfortable, way more uncomfortable.
It can't be more uncomfortable than the orgasm cake, I'm sorry.
It is more uncomfortable than the orgasm cake. I'll get there in a second. So, I like that idea, but the execution of it is clunky. But the idea, again, another example, great idea, bizarre execution. There was one moment in this film, more than the orgasm, which we've not really got either view of our views on. It's just weird. It's just unnecessary. But given that you didn't remember it, I want to go back to that. More uncomfortable, the orgasm cake is, I can't remember, what's his name? Link? Is it Link? Is Link the new tank? Link walks in at home and is cut off. And I literally rewound it and put subtitles on.
Yes.
This is what he says.
Yeah.
Where's my puss? And then he gets cut off. I'm sorry, that made me feel way more uncomfortable. I was like, oh, God.
I was surprised that's where that was going. I still find the orgasm cake worse, but yeah, that's also... The thing with that one is, it's like, it gets cut off. They don't actually go there. Right? With the orgasm cake, the Merovingian hints at it and you go, God, is that where they're going with this? And then they show it very clearly. Whereas the Where's My Puss one, where he gets cut off, he is at least cut off. He could be saying...
I'm the wrong audience.
Go on.
No, it's... Wait, look, I'm the wrong audience for that because I don't like that word in general. That word just makes me. It's my.
I assume he's being playful and funny, not serious.
No, fuck off that. No. When have you ever walked in the door in a playful
No,
room?
absolutely not. But we don't know what kind of relationship they have. Maybe that's like a running joke. I don't know.
It's weird.
He might have been. Look, Chris. He might have been coming in going, "Where's my Pussycat Dolls album?"
Well, because they've survived. They've survived the apocalypse.
They were. Unfortunately, when the world ended, the only album that survived was a vinyl of the Pussycat Dolls.
You know what it was? He was coming in and he was going, he's just a big pop culture guy, and it was, "Where's my Puss in Boots action figure?" He loves Shrek merchandise. Yeah, I was way more, because the orgasm cake is just like, it's just nuts. So like, it is nuts. It's inappropriate and it's weird
and pointless. What does it add, Chris, to anything?
For me, though, it's not as uncomfortable as an idea of someone greeting another person with those words.
I understand that. But at least that's just an idea hinted at, whereas the other one is outright shown, and that is deeply difficult for me.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna text Nadia, and next time she comes in, I'm gonna get her to come in and just yell the words, "Where's my dick?" and see how you feel about it, Dan.
Yeah, please. I hope the neighbours hear.
Well, you hear everything they do.
I have a question for you, Chris. Does this movie get hampered by having made Neo a god in the last one? And to be more specific, they have to keep making Neo get out the way in this movie for action sequences to be able to happen. So they get separated from Neo for the when they're escaping with the Keymaker. Then he ends up going through a door and ending up, hundreds of miles away, so that they can then be in the chase and not have Neo in the way. The final sequence, the whole, we have to divide into 3 teams to do 3 objectives, is again a way to have Neo not be Deus Ex Neo. Yet at the same time, they still do Deus Ex Neo regularly. Like, the solution to the freeway chase is Neo flies in and saves them. So
yes.
Is that a problem for this movie? I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think they mostly get away with it, maybe, but
I think it's
on analysis afterwards, I did find myself going, they did a lot of that, didn't they?
I think it's a slight problem. You're not getting away with not giving us your views on the orgy, by the way. But I think it's a slight.
Oh no, we can come back to the orgy. I wasn't trying to avoid the orgy. I was just moving us on. But we can absolutely chat about the orgy.
Well, just quickly then, what was your reaction not remembering it? Were you just like, what the fuck?
Well, it was like I remembered they had a party. I remembered there was music and dancing, and I remember my overriding thought before I switched the movie on. Like, when I sort of think about the movie and that scene kind of played in my head a little bit, I was like, oh, that's a nice idea, isn't it? Like, one last sort of, like, party before potentially the end of the world, right? Like, it says a lot about Morpheus's ability to keep them calm, but also their ability to just, let's live. This could be the end. So it shows that they're not in denial. They're not so convinced by Neo being the savior that they're just cracking on with their lives. The party demonstrates they understand the danger they're in and are taking advantage of that last night. But at the same time, like, they also are comfortable enough to do that because they do believe in Morpheus. I think it communicates quite a lot about the people of Zion. So I'm okay with the scene. I just don't really understand why it becomes an orgy. So for those who don't remember the scene, it sort of starts as just like tonight we party. The Beastie Boys burst through the door. And it's just sort of futuristic music and lots of dancing, and then they just start stripping, and there's lots of kissing, and then it's intercut with a sex scene between Neo and Trinity, and it just gets sort of saucier and saucier, I guess is the way to describe it. And I must admit, on my rewatch, I was just kind of like, my overwhelming thought was, why? And then afterwards I thought, it makes sense if everyone thought, the world was ending or could be ending, a lot of people would be getting laid before that happened. That would be on a lot of people's "I've got one day to live" lists. So it makes sense, but I just don't know what its place in the movie is. So yeah,
that's fair. No, I agree. I agree completely.
That's my overriding thought about the orgy. It did blow my mind that it was there, because it just was like, why? Again, the party itself, perfect sense. I was so on board with that. I thought that was a really clever way to communicate quite a lot about the people of Zion. But yeah, just why?
I just love the idea of you watching it.
That's the same question I have for the orgasm cake. Why?
I just love the idea of you watching it and it just ramping up and you being like, "What is going on here?" Like,
yeah, it did. It just got weirder and weirder because I wasn't sure. Like, oh yeah, okay, cool. This is exactly what I remember. You know, they're having a dance. It's it's got that weird color scheme that is nowhere else in the movie because it's kind of weirdly organic now. It's like browns and colors you don't normally get in the palette of a Matrix movie. The music is genuinely, and so many movies have done music that's supposed to be future music that you just like. That doesn't feel like what music would sound like in the future, whereas this just felt like it had been put together by people in a fucking cave, like it was, but also with the access to some technology would I listen to that music myself personally? Absolutely not, no. But for the scene, it's fucking perfect. It's so good. Like, I'm not cracking that on my headphones on my way to work, on my commute, But for the sequence in question, it's fantastic. I thought it was so good and so well done. So I was so into it, and then I was just like, why? Why go this far? This is so strange. Again, my overriding thought is why.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Going back to your Superman thing, yes, I think it hampers it a little bit. But especially the freeway chase. The freeway chase feels so forced. And so, especially, you know what makes it worse? Morpheus saying it. Like, "Neo, we could really do with you roundabout now. Oh, there he is!" Like, that makes it so much worse. But I will say this. It is more interesting and unique and better than what most films do. And, I'm not criticising. I'd probably do it in their position. Most films go in the first film or in the film prior, they've got the ultimate power, they're as strong as they can be. So what do we do in the sequel? Oh, well, we see what it will be like if we take the power away, and now they're powerless. How are they going to do? Like, it's better than that. Like, it feels more original than that.
Because the problem with doing that is that the arc is then the same, right? Because if you take someone's power away, their arc is reacquiring their power. But the arc of the first movie for Neo was acquiring the power. So
yes, exactly. So,
what you're going to accidentally end up doing in that situation is putting Neo on the same arc as the first film, and that's just not interesting because under any there's no version of that that's interesting to me.
And it is a challenge because it gets to a point with the playground fight where you're like, well, there's now too many of them. So this only ends, Neo, with you flying away. You can't destroy them all. You haven't destroyed any of them. You've knocked them down, but they've got back up.
You've knocked them down with a bowling ball hitting pins sound effect for some bizarre reason. That's I will never understand that choice either.
He's not. Like you've not gone into them and destroyed them, a la the first film. So you're only ever going to fly away. So you might as well fly away.
Do you also find that, like, in the beginning of the movie, they were trying to make it, like, they were trying to make you understand why Neo, was even fighting them at all, not just clicking his fingers and making them explode or whatever. Because he starts fighting them, and you're like, why is he even fighting them? And then he goes, upgrades. And I'm like, that's a really lazy way to make me go, oh, they can fight the agents now. He can fight the agents now, and it's not one-sided, I guess. And then the other thing that got me is the entire first movie. Don't fight the agents. Just if you see the agents, you just run. Both Trinity and Morpheus fight agents hand to hand in this movie, and they're supposed to be upgraded from the last movie's ones.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they should have.
What
maybe
happened
had
to just don't fight them? Run, except me, Morpheus. I'm the bloody best. What? Well, the last time Morpheus fought an agent, it was he was doing it knowing he was sacrificing himself, right? He threw himself at the agent to distract the agent long enough for Neo to escape. That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Chris, have you packed your backpack as well? Because I want to quickly pop to Nitpick Corner.
Oh yeah, I've got my snacks. Go on.
You got your snacks. Trinity's on the top of that truck that has bikes on it. Yeah, she gets on one of the bikes and drives off.
The very handy bike truck. Yep.
Yeah, you know what? I'm fine with the bike truck. Lots of trucks on a freeway. Maybe you come across a bike truck. Fine. Not even my problem. The bikes wouldn't be fueled though, would they?
Yeah, that's very.
They wouldn't have a full tank of fuel. I don't know. That'd be one. It would make it very easy for them to be stolen. But two, that's just a. If one was to fall off or something, and have a tank of fuel in it, it seems dangerous, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they might have a drop of fuel to be able to, move them about a little bit. But I don't think they'd have a tank of fuel to be zipping about down a freeway.
I will say, as much as there's two things with the freeway. One, a comment, and two, a discussion, an opportunity to discuss the twins, which we've not yet done. But my first thing, I will say with the freeway fight, it's another good example where now, as much as I think some of the CGI really doesn't hold up, now, in a world of Fast and Furious movies, in a world of Die Hard movies where, John McClane is on a freeway, holding down a helicopter or whatever he's doing in that movie. In a world with all of those things, it's easy to forget how insane this was at the time. Like, if memory serves, I think they built that freeway to film this.
They did
sequence.
on an airbase. And yeah, it's in the true. We can quickly do it now. So it was. Let me see. Oh god, I can't find it. Here we go. The 1.4 mile 3-lane loop highway was built specifically for the chase scene on a decommissioned airbase in Alameda Point, across the east and west runways. And apparently they did take a lot of it apart when they left. But they left a huge amount of it there also. And on satellite imagery, even to now, there are still chunks of freeway on that airbase that you can see.
Oh wow, God,
yeah.
And it is stunning, and it is easy to forget how revolutionary that was at the time. Mm-hmm. How that was fucking hell, I haven't seen anything like this with that much spectacle. It is an incredible sequence. As much as some of the dialogue's a bit, and you're a bit like, where's Neo? And the CGI we've talked about. It is people. I think it's easy to forget when watching it now. For 2003, this shit was out of the world,
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, and again, the action sequences, alone, on their own, the spectacle of them is, and let's be honest, iconic.
Yeah, absolutely.
As much as I made fun of it, the shot when Neo puts the stick in the middle and runs around kicking all the Smiths in the faces. That's burned into my retinas. Morpheus on the roof of that truck with the sword facing off against the agent, burned into my memory. Neo in the Merovingian's foyer and everyone going in slow motion as they leap off those stairs. I'll never forget that image.
I will say though, it's such a shame to have that conversation literally yesterday or whenever we recorded and talk about how the thing that was so clever in the first film about bullet time was it wasn't slowing it down for the sake of it. They embedded it in. There's a fair amount of slowing it down for the sake of it in this film, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
But again, set that style. No one was doing it before, so credit to the original.
Yeah, there's a lot of contextless slowing down, where it's just doing it for no reason, because everyone's still moving at the same speed, which means there's really no reason to slow it down other than that it looks cool. So, yeah, agreed. There's so much iconic imagery in the movie, and I do think on the whole, I guess the overall narrative thrust kind of works, and I'm not against any of the ideas or even the premise of saying it's deconstructionist. I think that's fine, and as we talked about, all of Neo's character stuff about fate and having choices, and at the end of this movie making a really hard choice, but seemingly doing it very easily, just to fucking piss off the architect, I think is really interesting. I also really love the visuals of the architect scene, especially the when Neo's going to react, the screens all show dozens of different potential reactions before zooming in on the one that's the real one. Like,
yeah, that was great. Yeah,
such a cool idea, so well communicated, visually interesting. Yes, please. So yeah, I don't know. There's a couple of other quick, very small things.
Well, what did you think of the twins?
Before we get to the triv, very quickly.
What did you think of the twins? Can you hear me?
What's up, sorry?
Oh, you can. I said like four times. I've been like, "What did you think of the twins?" And it seems like you could. I thought maybe you couldn't hear me again.
No, you are very low. I turned you down because I was worried you were bleeding into the mic, so I turned you too low. Sorry. What did I think of
the twins? We've not
the
talked
twins.
About that.
The twins. Sorry, I've turned you up now. Yeah. Okay. My apologies.
That's right.
The twins, who are played by two British daytime TV stars.
Which is I've never forgotten that fact because I remember seeing them interviewed because were they in what, like DIY SOS or something?
Yeah, they do a shit DIY show in the UK, and I've got them here, Adrian and Neil Raymond. They were basically twins that did a show where they did DIY for some reason. I don't know what the circumstances were. I could look them up, I suppose. What are they
I'm just
from?
looking them up now.
Yeah. I've got the names. What was the show?
The show?
Better Homes?
Yeah, Better Homes. They also did some stuff on This Morning.
So
I just remember at the time them being interviewed and they were just like, yeah, I don't know how this happened.
Well, yeah, because basically because in the UK, obviously, this is where they were from. They were on television here. They were kind of, to some degree, famous here. And I guess a lot of the reason they were interviewed was just like, well, we can get people who are in the movie The Matrix. We can't get Keanu Reeves. We can't get Carrie-Anne Moss, but we probably can get the two guys from bloody Better Homes to come talk about it. So in the UK, we were all very aware of their role in the Matrix and who they were. I guess to most Americans, the idea that they're two people from daytime TV in the UK is not even a known thing.
Yeah,
they do a fine job.
But
it's a very simple role.
Yeah.
Didn't need to be, like seasoned actors. I think they both do it quite well. They're reasonably intimidating. They've got the physicality, obviously. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, I think they get destroyed for people that seem to be invincible when they're first introduced. I do think the way they get destroyed is a bit like, okay. It turns out if you had a flamethrower, you could have done it earlier.
That weird, right? Like, why fire? Like, yeah. Don't know.
Yeah, so I do think that was a bit like, because also it seems like Morpheus knew it was going to work, and even that, like, he scrapes the car, but it still like flips, and then he just for I think for the initial sequence, the threat seemed to be these guys are unkillable. Who knows what the fuck to do? And then it just felt like the movie went, right, we've had enough of that now.
Morpheus knows what to do.
Morpheus knows exactly what to do. Cool.
Yeah, I do. I will say though, one of my favorite shots in the whole movie, Morpheus slicing the side of that car, it flipping, and then him just turning around casually and shooting the bottom of it. Like, it's just such a cool visual. Really does stand out.
Morpheus does kick ass, because one of my favorite facts, along with the Better Homes fact, that I remember is Lawrence Fishburne saying that
is he related to Lawrence Fishburne?
Yeah. That's actually the correct pronunciation.
It's like his cousin.
Fishburne, did you say?
Yeah, not Fishborn.
He's
not related to Jason Bourne.
He has said, he came out in the kind of pre-interviews and was like, I've never ever signed up to a film without reading the script, except in this instance, because I had that much faith. And I just love the notion of I wonder whether he regretted that, or whether I used to wonder whether he got the script and went, fuck. But actually, he's got some fucking cool moments in this film. So I imagine he was happy, because
and
like
his
that
character,
scene,
his character gets the most interesting. So the ending of the movie, for those who don't remember, it's Empire Strikes Back. It's the second act. You know, you downer ending before they bring it all back in the third one. Neo wasn't able to end the war. The prophecy, as far as they know right now, was not wrong. So Morpheus' beliefs is in tatters. The Nebuchadnezzar is destroyed. Smith has found his way into human form, and is with Neo. The Machine Army are on its way to Zion. Like and you know, Smith's running rampant. Like, there's not much going for them at the end of this movie. Let's be honest, right? No. It's pretty downer as it goes. So I like from my perspective as a viewer, like that's I think just a really cool idea. But from I imagine from Lawrence Fishburne's perspective, as that is now his name, like that ending is like the perfect dramatic beat for his character. He's got the clearest character arc. You know, he's the guy that believes, unequivocally, unconditionally believes in the One, and he's basically told by the One that he's found out that it's fictional.
Yeah.
I mean, the payoff for that still needs to be there. The script for the...
I was going to say,
I bet
we explore that in the sequel.
Well, we'll see. I guess we're going to review that next. So, spoilers. We're not doing Pink Floyd's The Wall.
I don't know, Dan. It's my choice.
Is it your choice? Oh, it is your choice.
You chose this one.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Oh God, maybe we are doing Pink Floyd's The Wall. But yeah, assuming they pay that off correctly, which they might. I don't know. I don't remember. The third one, I definitely have the least memories of. I remembered all of this, like except for like the orgy, I guess, and the orgasm cake. But all the major action sequences and rough thrust of this movie, I remembered quite well. So yeah, I don't know. I imagine it. I mean, as a writer, at the end of the last review, I was like, Morpheus's character is in one of the most interesting places. You know, you take the belief away from him, you're going to be left with a very interesting character, or a really interesting arc. And I guess we'll see.
Absolutely. So what were your other notes before we triv it up?
I only had one other note that's left, because one of them was about like the ending being the Empire Strikes Back ending. The other one, I wanted to briefly talk, if that's okay with you, about the discovering the wider world of Zion. And there's some stuff in discovering the wider Zion that feels like retcon, but isn't. So you take it for granted in the first movie. Like, Zion exists. There are lots of real people. Tank and Dozer talk about that. Before one is murdered in the movie and one is murdered between the movies. But the politics...
shot, though, to be fair, he... You know what I mean? He was in a relatively bad way at the end of the first film.
Yeah, but he was supposed to survive. We'll come to that.
Oh, yeah. I know that's part. I assume that's part of the trivia. I know that, but it's not too egregious. I don't think anyone would particularly bump against it if they didn't.
Right? Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. So they come back, and the two things that I think surprised me were the politics, the organization of Zion, but also to some Morpheus, who seemed to me to be like a well-respected leader of this community. Some people see him as a bit of a kook, which makes sense. Not everyone's going to believe the guy running around talking about a prophecy. So it's something about it feels like a retcon. It doesn't feel like it fits in what we learnt in the last movie, but it technically does. So I want to get some of your thoughts on like seeing Zion and learning about Zion and how it works and the political structure and the senators and council members, and all that stuff.
I think it's really difficult because if you set something like that up, the only way of topping stuff is to show it. But it's never going to be, it's the same, not to bring up Doctor Who again, take a shot, but we always get that same fucking Crystal Tower shot of Gallifrey, don't we? Because it's just like, do you know what I mean? That's all that they can afford or whatever. But it nothing like that can ever live up to the hype because of, you conjure up your own ideas of the last city underground. And to be fair, I think if most people were going to draw it, they'd draw something like what we see. They do that weird thing of, we know they've got technology. It's odd that, on the ships there's sunglasses and leather and all of that stuff. And then the city is, rags and stuff like that. That's slightly juxtaposing.
They're always in rags on the ship. It's only when they go into the Matrix that they've got...
No, that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true, actually. Yeah. I'll take that back. I guess the politics of it, we have that scene, which is, again, quite an interesting scene, where he's talking to the head guy about, the machines need us, but we also need them. And that's all very interesting, but I don't remember them doing anything with it, and certainly not in this film. Do they then explore it further? So you kind of go, you have to get a bit of the politics, and it's not egregious as Star Wars for people talking about the politics of the city or whatever. But it isn't necessarily needed. Although I did find the whole ex-girlfriend going off for Morpheus and letting down the guy's still there fighting, and I think he's a big part of the sequel of Revolutions, if memory serves. So I think you probably couldn't do it any better, but the problem with something like that idea is you are never going to do it as well as the audience's imagination of what the last city looks like. But if neither sequel went there, you'd be going, oh, why have we never seen Zion? So I think they did it as well as they could, to be honest.
So does this come back to the thing I briefly hinted at that we've not really talked about in the last podcast, this whole notion of when you've done a movie that pretty much has a conclusion, and reasonably satisfying one, you don't need the details of how Neo saves the world. But let's be clear, he becomes the one, flies off. The implication is there, is it not? Of what Neo was going off to go do. So,
yes, but
again, though, when you've wrapped up your story and you're forced to sort of reopen that can of worms, like, in the version of the story we get that's the first movie, you definitely don't need to see Zion. So they've created a situation where you kind of like... Yeah, I don't know. Am I talking up my back?
Zion would be on the list of... If they didn't make a sequel, Zion would be on the list of reasons why they should. Because it would be listed as one of the things that you'd want to explore. Like, fair play to Spielberg, because he's never made an E.T. sequel. But if he did, people would probably be intrigued to see his homeworld. If, you're not following the rides. Isn't the point, though, sometimes
that things are best left, aren't some things best left to the imagination?
Yeah, and in an ideal world, having got the sequels we got, I can sit here and go, maybe The Matrix should have just been The Matrix. But if there wasn't the sequels, on my list of films you could make more of, films you could explore again, The Matrix would absolutely be on that list. Because there's so much depth and stuff to explore that there's definitely story there. We don't like the story they told, but it's undeniable. It's not, it's a similar thing with Back to the Future. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, we got to carve a second story out of this, even though the first one told a very complete story. And again, with Back to the Future, you go, it's a fucking time machine. Surely there's more we can do with this. A make-believe world, it's absolutely ripe. I can see why, even though the 2 and 3 weren't successful, I can see why it's getting a 4th. I can see why they're potentially pinning hopes on even more than that. Should it have a sequel? No. Can I see why there is one? Would I want one if we didn't get the sequels? Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like, I think you're right, but there's so much of this movie where I'm like, oh, God, they have been bogged down through chunks of this movie, I think.
Yeah, completely.
By the fact that the last one was so complete. And I keep going, is it they shouldn't have bothered? Maybe not shouldn't have bothered. Well, yeah, maybe is it that they should have just been left alone? Because there is no way to do it without it feeling at least somewhat like that. Or is there a way for a really good script to not make it feel like that and to find a good story
I never think a hugely successful first movie and a 2 and a 3 that go together and are filmed at the same time, I don't think that ever works. I don't think a trilogy should feel like one movie and then 2 movies. Back to the Future suffers from it. The Matrix suffers from it. The original Star Wars trilogy gets away with it only because actually The Empire Strikes Back is a complete story. Downbeat ending, cliffhanger ending, but the actual story of that movie is complete. And resolved. I don't think it's the right way to ever approach trilogies, personally. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're not, it's certainly not. It's a big question. We are not equipped to answer, or have the time to. But it's just an interesting thought. It's something I did think about a lot when watching this movie, and I don't have the answer. I do think that some of that could have been smoothed out in execution, but I also do think there's a part of me that just goes, "Oh God, maybe we shouldn't have." Maybe Neo flying off into the sunset was as good as it was ever going to be because they ended on Neo flying off to take them out, showing that no matter what they showed was always going to be disappointing.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but it does make you wish for that film that film of him just in the Matrix, just going and just kicking ass. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's not do the real world so much, because it is crazy how much of this film is kind of an apocalyptic real world film.
Yeah.
Just how much of it is set. Like, there's not necessarily a lot on Zion, but like you say, there's a lot of hopping in and out of the Matrix. Yeah. So I think it is execution. I think there's a world where these sequels could have been amazing. Isn't there like a massive YouTube video where someone's rewritten 2 and 3?
Yeah, yes. I absolutely want to shout out. It's Patrick H. Willems, who loves The Matrix and does have love, for the sequels and appreciates what they do. He did a video, it's like 40 minutes long, called Rewriting the Matrix Sequels, which I'm definitely going to rewatch once we finished reviewing these. I've not watched it for a long time. And it's basically, he's like, I'm going to try and... It's just a thought experiment, no disrespect to the original creators. I'm just going to basically deconstruct the sequels and rework them in a way that I think would be clearer and more satisfying to an audience. I'm going to use what I have, though. I'm not just going to scrap those 2 movies and write my own sequels. I want to follow the same story structure and concepts and rules as established by the Wachowskis, but I just want to basically rework them so that they're maybe more satisfying narratively. And he says it's just like a thought experiment, but he goes crazy deep into it. Weeks and weeks, months of work as he thinks about it. And what he does genuinely is fix these movies. I really do believe what he proposes would fix a lot of the problems of this movie. Now, I haven't watched this video in a long, long time. He put it out like 2 years ago. But at the time when I watched it, having not had rewatched them recently, I felt like, oh yeah, that's perfect. I'll see how I feel when I watch it after this. But yeah, it's a great video. Patrick H. Willems, Rewriting the Matrix Sequels. It's like 40 minutes long. Well worth anyone's time. But in that case then, Chris, should we...
Let's triv it up!
I'm going to give you some trivia.
Nice.
Can't believe I just said that.
I shouldn't have liked it, but let me tell you now, I did.
To make it rhyme, I had to make the words merge and give you some trivia. Anyway, speaking of alternate realities, Chris, from last week, all the different alternate castings and stuff. The Wachowskis were approached to direct the next Batman movie from Warner Brothers, which turned into Batman Begins. They turned it down.
Oh, wow.
They turned it down to do the Matrix sequels.
With that. I'm okay with that.
I am also okay with that. I said to Nadia this morning after I'd read that trivia, what a fascinating alternate reality, because Batman Begins changed the direction of superhero movies, right? And legitimized superhero movies and helped get Marvel off the ground and many other franchises. If you don't do Batman Begins and therefore The Dark Knight, movies are different. And I'm not suggesting that Lana and Lily wouldn't have done a great Batman movie. It just would have been something different, and I don't think it would have had the same cultural impact, and then it has a knock-on effect.
It's so crazy, Hollywood, isn't it? Like, one big success, and it's just like, here are the keys to anything you want. Like, all right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been a fascinating... My curiosity of seeing what they would have done with Batman is there, but not enough to have lost the Dark Knight.
No one's third movie should be Batman. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't seem sensible to me.
No, agreed. No, 100% agreed. So as we've already mentioned, the contract for them doing this movie was that they wouldn't have to do any media interviews. The script for the movie and the code name for the movie once it was in production was The Burley Man. The Burley Man is the title of the script Barton Fink is working on in the film Barton Fink from 1991. While shooting the freeway sequences, the directors would watch the shots, the rushes, in a vehicle that the crew referred to as the Burley Van.
Nice. That's very good.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, me too. Weirdly, amongst fans and everything, it turns out, the fight scene between Smith and Neo is literally listed as the Burley Man scene. Or the Burley Man fight. I shrug. That's what it's known as.
Fan of that
amongst the community, and I mean properly. If you Google it, that's all that comes up. It's crazy. Everyone seems to have unanimously decided that's what that fight is called. 3 different actors signed on to the film without having read the script. One, as Chris already mentioned, was Lawrence Fishburne. The other was Jada Pinkett Smith, and then Anthony Brandon Wong. They all signed on without having read the script. I guess you see the first one. There's a sequel coming. You trust the Wachowskis? Yeah,
It does make you feel like we haven't seen the film. I don't want to get into a whole thing about it, but it does make you feel bad for Lawrence, doesn't it? With it's just non-involvement in the 4th film.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced he's not in it, but yeah,
no, I don't think he is. But yeah, we should.
Yeah. Anyway, so the role of Seraph was originally written specifically for Jet Li. Reportedly, Jet Li asked for the same amount of money they were paying Keanu Reeves to do the film. Now, it's unclear here if he just asked for an amount of money and it happened to be the amount of money they were asking or paying Keanu Reeves, or if he literally said, I want to be paid the same as Keanu Reeves. I'm not sure which way round that was, and I think there is a big distinction there between asking for a lot of money that happens to match up with the leads because it's too much, or specifically saying I wish to be paid the same as the lead. But anyway, the role was then rewritten to be a female character and was offered to Michelle Yeoh, who, as far as I know, wanted to do it but had to turn it down due to scheduling conflicts, and that's when Colin Chu got the got the role as Seraph. He's great in the film. He was one of my favourite characters when I saw it the first time, and I wanted a lot more of him. I was sad we didn't get so much.
I think that's fair.
His fight with Neo is very good. Reminiscent of the dojo scene from the first one.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
So this movie was a little bit plagued by tragedy. 2 specific deaths related to it. Actor and R&B singer Aliyah was originally cast as Z. Tragically died, I'd say quite famously died in a plane crash in August 2001. They were then forced to obviously recast the role. Eva Mendes, Samantha Mumbo, some of the Mumba. It's underlined here, so the A looks like it could be an O, but I'm pretty sure it's an A from memory.
I think it's Mumba. Yeah, I think it's Samantha Mumba.
Brandy Norwood and Tatiana Ali were all sort of rumoured to be possible replacements, but in the end, Nona Gay, who's the daughter of late Motown legend Marvin Gaye, got cast in the role. So that's tragedy number one. Sadly, tragedy number two, Gloria Foster, who plays the Oracle in the first movie and in this one, she died before they started shooting the third Revolutions, and had to be recast. Quite sad. I think she's wonderful. I do think Mary Alice does a great job as her replacement in the next one. But the fact that she happened to die like mid-production on a double feature that's just really unfortunate.
Yeah, definitely.
That's
very
absolutely
tragic.
And it was a real contribution to the first movie and this one. She's a wonderful actress. So yeah, what a shame. Gina Torres plays Cass, the widow of Dozer. Obviously, at the time, Gina Torres and Fishburne were married, so that's fun that they both got to do the movie together. Don't share any scenes, but there you go. Briefly, Chris, can we talk about the hilarious history of Sean Connery turning down roles in what turned out to be extremely successful franchises?
Let's absolutely talk about that.
So Sean Connery was offered the role of Gandalf, Lord of the Rings, didn't understand it, turned it down. He was offered the role of John Hammond in Jurassic Park, didn't get it, turned it down. He was offered the role of Dumbledore in Harry Potter, didn't get it, turned it down. He was offered the role of Rick Deckard in Blade Runner, didn't get it, turned it down. And was offered not one, but two roles in the Matrix series. He was apparently at one point offered the chance to be Morpheus for the first one, turned it down, didn't get it. Not content with being turned down once by Sean Connery, the Wachowskis then offered him the chance to play the architect, because I guess they thought, well, the first one was a success, maybe he'll come back. He didn't. He didn't want to play the architect.
Surely at that point his agent is like, no, seriously, it'll be a very simple payday. You should do the Matrix.
I would agree. But again, I guess just didn't get it, turned it down. Now, this led to a very, very bizarre decision, because he'd done a lot of movies, or turned down a lot of movies that turned out to be hits, because he didn't get the script. So he told himself, the next time I get a script I don't get, I'm just going to do it, because these genre films, they're beyond me, but they're obviously very successful. And the next script that landed on his door was 2003's League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I was going to say, presumably that was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen then.
An absolutely awful movie that bombed at the box office.
Wow. It's the agent's job to push, because I tell you what, I don't know why. I mean, no disrespect to the actor that they did cast. I think that scene would have been better with Sean Connery.
There's a truth to
because
that.
you'd be going, fucking hell, I don't get it, but it's Sean Connery.
Yeah. So apparently Sean Connery talked about this on the commentary or an interview on the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen DVD.
That's brilliant. That's amazing.
Look, Sean Connery, we love you. At some point, we're going to do movies with you in it. Maybe even we'll do League at some point for fun, because I know it's bad, and I had a very awful time watching that in the cinema when I was younger.
You know what? I tried to watch it and didn't get through it.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad.
I think my childhood sweetheart had it on VHS, and I borrowed it and tried to watch it and was like, nah.
No, it's awful. I saw it in the cinema.
Don't get it.
I saw it in the cinema.
Wow.
And no. I was a comic book fan. It's a comic book adaptation. I saw them all. I was there for the X-Men movies. I was, first day in the cinema like a little fucking nerd. Or, well, let's be realistic. Second day. Movies come out on a Friday. We've established this. But yeah, I was always there as soon as I could be. So Marcus Chong was supposed to return as Tank in this movie. But he had a bit of a falling out with Lana and Lily and the studio. So as a result, his character was written out and killed off screen. Officially, he was not asked back because of a salary negotiation between him and the studio that had broken down. He was offered $250,000 to do both sequels, which is 5 times the amount of money he was paid for the original. But he'd actually asked for $1 million. He wanted 3 times that. He then sued the company for not.
Well, because I was intrigued about that and searched it earlier just to clarify, because I think you've given the pound total and then the dollar, so it was $400,000 and $1 million.
These have both got dollar on them where I've sourced it.
Oh, right, okay.
So he was offered
on the Screen Rant one. It says dollars for 400 million, but anyway, it's about that. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so I've got 250,000 to do both sequels, and then he wanted $1 million. But somewhere in there, somewhere between 250,000 and 400,000 was what he was offered. Yeah. But he wanted nearly at least, even if at the most generous gap, he wanted double that. So he then sued the company for not honouring their verbal promise. And had a contract that he was written for the sequels. He claimed his original contract said he might be used in the sequels or whatever. He later claimed that Wachowskis tried to slander him with intentionally false statements, causing him to be blackballed in Hollywood. The studio countered that he'd been arrested for making threats at the directors following failed salary negotiations. In 2018, he released a documentary on YouTube called The Marcus Chong Story. And by the way, Chris, if I ever release a documentary called The Dan Doolan Story, kill me on the spot. In which he further made accusations against the studio that they denied him royalties, forced him to sign a fake contract, and even tried to silence him. And then he also levied some complaints at the other colleagues in the movie. I just feel sorry for him. This is sad. It's look, he did a great job in the first movie. I really liked his performance. It's a shame they couldn't negotiate, but dude, let it go. These things happen. It's oh, please, for yourself, it's more than anything.
It's very difficult, isn't it? Because it's very difficult for people that aren't actors, aren't in the industry, to judge on stuff like that, on monetary stuff. Because we talked about this a few times. Yeah, because to me it seems like a fuckload, but obviously it's got to be balanced against. Well, to me it seems like a fuckload, but equally, so does £1,000. But if I found out everyone else was getting £20,000, I'd probably question it. But even at $250, for the role that Link is, which I assume it would be equivalent, that seems like a good wage. So that is a shame. And obviously we don't know all the details. I expect it's one of those things where the truth is somewhere in the middle of what they're saying and what he's saying.
That is in my experience, that's almost always the case. Yeah, massive shame. Yeah, I agree. Because I like him. I think he's good. It's just a shame it didn't work out that way, and it's a shame that he's taken it so personally, and he's obviously carried it around with him for since then. Basically, that documentary was 2018, so it's just a shame that it's worked out that way.
That's sort of peak Keanu time. It seems brave to be like, if I go after Keanu Reeves, everyone's gonna agree. That seems like a bold move. Bless him. Yeah. Not to sound condescending. No, I know what you mean. According to this, according to my triv, Chris, according to this document I put together, around 97% of the material from the film sets was recycled after filming. It was something specifically requested. I'm not sure exactly from who, but it looks like either the production crew or even the Wachowskis themselves made a real point of that. And as a result, literally tons of wood sent to Mexico to build low-income housing and other reuses for the materials. So I think that's really good. Fair play. Yeah. Again, 2003 people. That's not happening a lot. That's awesome. No, agreed, 100%. The special effects budget was over $100 million in the end, and it kept ballooning. That's how it got there. It was reported that when the studio got nervous about this, Keanu Reeves actually volunteered to give up
his claim to a share of the ticket sales, which would have been worth about $38 million. Because the film, the producers started to fear the film would never recoup the cost of its special effects, and that's one of the ways Keanu Reeves, was offering to help and say, "Look, I'll give up my right to the ticket sale percentage. Will that offset some of that for you?" I don't think it sounds like he didn't end up having to do that, but it was the percentage in question would have been worth about $38 million. So yeah, that would have been a big chunk of it. The fight sequence of Neo versus Smith and his clones, aka the Burley Brawl, took 27 days to shoot, which is madness. Most of the movie, like the last one, was shot in Australia. Go on, sorry.
I just don't think that was worth it. Sorry. I don't think it was worth 27 days.
It's a long time. Only a couple of the Smith clones were actually played by Hugo Weaving. I don't think this will surprise anyone, but yeah, open casting calls for male actors with similar body shapes and structures took place. Weaving's head was superimposed onto them later, but if you actually count it up in the film itself, in the Burley Brawl sequence, Neo ultimately battles with over 80 Agent Smiths. So there you go. Martial arts training for the lead actors and actresses started in November 2000 and lasted 8 months. It specifically took Carrie-Anne Moss about 6 months just to get the scorpion kick that's seen at the beginning of the movie correct. She also did some of her own driving the motorcycle in the highway scene because she's a boss.
Nice. Awesome.
Continuing the recurring segment from the last movie, from the last podcast, everyone got hurt making this movie. Several injuries on set. Carrie-Anne Moss broke her leg training for a wire stunt. Lawrence Fishburne fractured an arm in another training incident. And Hugo Weaving put out a disc in his neck while being pulled back on a wire, presumably during the fight sequence. Yeah, I am not going to disparage any health and safety for this particular movie, but I would say it seems like there were maybe less precautions taking place in Hollywood in general back then. I feel like if a movie had 3 accidents like that on it now, you'd be raising questions.
Yeah, definitely.
Accidents still happen, occasionally you something goes wrong. It's inevitable, Tom Cruise broke a leg or broke his ankle or whatever on a Mission Impossible film a couple of years ago, but it's rare. Like, I don't feel like it's happening as often as it was happening back then. And I don't think that's a comment on this movie and the people involved. I think that is just a general statement on maybe how Hollywood was doing that sort of stuff at the time.
Yeah.
Helmut Bakatis explained in an interview, he's the guy that played the architect, that his inspiration for the voice was Orson Welles. I think that's very, very good. And I do think that performance is quite good. I do think he delivers a lot of that dialogue with utter, fixed, computerized almost sort of like... the way he does it, it's so much like talking to a machine. It's spooky, actually. He is very good.
It's a great performance.
The Zion Rave orgy involved over 1,000 extras. It's a lot, isn't it?
1,000 extras just going, are we in a Matrix movie? Like, this is weird. This doesn't feel like the Matrix.
Yeah, they told me I was going to be an extra in the Matrix movie. I was like waiting for my leather jacket and sunglasses. What's this we're doing? Is this an orgy? Are we doing an orgy? Mate, I auditioned for a scene that involved an orgasm cake. What are you talking about?
I would love to see
a third guy going, I auditioned for a scene where I started the sentence, "Where's my puss?"
I would love, as bonus content for the Patreon, you recreating the orgasm scene, but with like a cake that's not as smooth, with like a Chelsea bun or an Eccles cake. It's still cutting into it with the fork, but like, yeah, that's the dream. Hashtag release the Doom.
I've got so many questions about where your brain just went, Chris.
I tell you, mate, it went to you eating an orgasm cake and eating a Eccles cake and then orgasming. That's exactly where I think I was very upfront about that. Hashtag
you're right.
Release the Doolin cut.
And do I have to insert the same shot from between her? Because I can't recreate the code sequence because I don't have the special effects know-how, Chris. Do I just slice in the shot of from the actual movie?
No, I want you to get a load of green paper, cut it up into like tassels, and just wave it about your crotch.
No, it's different colours of green paper because it has to be glowy for the very centre of the crotch. I believe.
Yes, yeah. And then the scene ends with Nadia coming in and going, "Where's my dick?"
Oh man. Moving on to give me some trivia, Chris, and stop fucking making my mind go to weird places.
Hey, I just like I say, Christmas is round the corner. I can no longer do the whole. I'll take that as a wedding present. But by the way, thank you very much. Very generous wedding gift. I assume Nadia was in charge. But thanking you.
You assume Nadia was in charge? How fucking very well dare you? I mean, she was.
Was Nadia in
fucking
charge?
How very well dare you?
I was going to say, was Nadia? Do you even know what you get?
Yeah, of course. I mean, but here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Generous.
So now, we were very clear, and we just said, "Are you registered anywhere?" And your genuine response was, "No, we just want cold hard cash."
Yeah.
So what did we do?
I felt I could respond like that to Nadia. Other people asked, and I did an awkward, "Oh, well, actually, we've already got things because we moved in a while ago, so we've just done..." With Nadia, I was literally like, "No, cold hard cash."
Yeah, and what's funny is she asked me, she went, what? It's weird they're not registered. And I went, no, it's not weird they're not registered. They're living together. They have been for a while. They've got a house full of things. They don't need more things.
Yeah.
They have more use for money.
Yeah. Like, surely if you were getting married, you'd potentially not register because what do you need?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Sorry, back to the giving me the trivia.
Give you the trivia. But also, I will say, I appreciate you saying that it was generous because we genuinely were like, we don't know we don't know what the etiquette is here. We don't know we don't know where the line is, what's too much, what's too little. So we just went safe and round with the number and hoped that everyone else went lower.
It was incredibly generous, and I will give you a more open answer to your last comment off air.
Amazing. Great. Anyway, let me give you some trivia. So the key theme, the Matrix theme, that those notes that you hear at the start of each movie, they ascend every movie. So the first Matrix starts with in the key of E minor. The second one ascends a whole step to F sharp minor, and then the third one ascends half a step to the key of G minor. I didn't realize that, but that's pretty cool. Good detail. Chris.
Yeah, that's nice.
This is what you're here for with the trivia. This is what you've been waiting for. Would you like the exact translation of the swearing the Merovingian does in French?
I would love that, actually.
I would too, because I'm going to enjoy saying the following sentence. Goddamn whore, filthy shithouse jerk, bugger of your mother.
Oh, for people that understand French, that is so close to the orgasm cake scene that people would be like, this film has gone off the rails.
Anyway.
That is amazing.
Yeah. The hack that Trinity is seen doing into the power station is a legitimate hack. She uses an Nmap version 254 Beta 25, which is a real port scanning tool used by both network administrators and hackers alike to find a vulnerable SSH server, and then proceeds to exploit it using the SSH1 CRC32 exploit that would have been popular around 2001.
Nice.
Hacking exists. The ship... Oh, this one's a good... I love this one. The ship that's referred to as the Hammer, if you actually check its label, it's called Mjolnir.
Nice.
Which is the mythological hammer of the god of thunder, Thor.
Oh,
but no one can pronounce Mjolnir, so they started calling it the Hammer.
Fair play.
Good detail.
Can't fault them on that.
No. And I mean, the next two are just bonkers level detail, but yeah. So Smith pulls up in an Audi at the beginning of the film, and his plate is IS5416. Now, if you're thinking, well, that's meaningless drivel down, apparently it's not. And whoever figured this out, good luck to you, because I can't even imagine where you started to look into this, but the King James Bible has a section, Isaiah 54:16, that says, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy."
Jesus. Wow.
Both.
That's got to have been like, surely they've said that in a book or something. Like, or if
knows,
someone
mate.
noticed that.
It's both impressive. It's both impressive that that's there, and means that, and that someone found it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But in the same vein, Chris, the Keymaker, while explaining how Neo can reach the Architect, says that he will have to knock out 27 blocks of power, and that they would have exactly 314 seconds before the power begins to reroute. In the Bible, the 27th book of the New Testament, Revelation, chapter 3, verse 14, speaks of being a witness to the source of creation.
Blimey. Wow.
And obviously,
Fair play for the level
that's
of
how
detail.
Neo is getting to the source.
Yeah.
Bonkers.
Fair play.
Absolutely bonkers. I'm glad that information wasn't very publicly known back when I was in high school, because my RE teachers, religious education teachers, already made us watch the end of The Matrix like 8 times. God forbid they'd found out that there were actual Bible references snuck in the second one. Nadia it's worth noting, Nadia hates the first Matrix movie because she has seen it thousands of times, because apparently a lot of very lazy, they called it, in her school, they called it RS, religious studies, teachers would just put that movie on whenever they couldn't be asked doing a full lesson, so they all saw it about 100 times.
Well, fair play to the teachers for trying to, trying to think of something that the kids might relate to.
I guess.
Yeah, fair play. Cool.
Not multiple times, though.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. No, nobody needs to watch the same film. Yeah, absolutely. It's like at Christmas, you saw fucking Elf in like 4 different classrooms.
Yeah. Total Film Magazine says that the film... Total Film Magazine determined that one of the worst lines ever delivered in a mainstream Hollywood film is in this movie. Would you like me to read the line of dialogue that Total Film determined was the worst line ever from a Hollywood film?
Is it Where's My Puss? Let's go on. Yes,
no,
I would like to,
but it should have been. The line of dialogue is, "Your life is the sum of a remainder of an unbalanced equation inherent to the programming of the Matrix." Yeah, fair. That's waffle.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, fair play.
Absolutely
At least,
waffle.
hey, I don't like it, but I very much understand Where's My Puss.
Jesus Christ. In the original theatrical release of The Matrix Reloaded, many of the signs on the Freeway Chase had 8-character hexadecimal codes instead of content or street names or exit names or anything like that. This was then changed for theatrical versions that aired later or home video. Those hex codes were actually cheats for the companion game Enter the Matrix.
Yeah, nice. Oh, that's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, so if you were willing to,
yeah, we
pause
didn't.
the
Maybe
movie at the right
because
moments or whatever, you could get the codes.
we're in Triv now, so maybe we'll talk about it more in the wrap up to the next film. But as hinted at, fair play for the interconnectivity, and there was animation, there was the game, there was all of that stuff. Maybe we'll try and remember to talk about it next time. But yeah, fair play. That's great.
So, Enter the Matrix had a bunch of scenes that intersect with the movie we just watched. So in this movie, Niobe shows up at just the right moment to save Morpheus. In the Enter the Matrix game, you play a sequence where you're Niobe getting to Morpheus to help. So it all does link quite well.
Yeah, that's great.
So the original plan was to release this film and its sequel, Revolutions, within a few weeks of each other, not a few months. But the studio nixed the idea, presumably in an attempt to build up some level of anticipation. And also not to step on their own 2 feet by releasing a movie on top of their other movie.
Yeah, I think that's the right decision, to be fair.
Yeah, I think so too. Earning in excess of $735 million at the worldwide box office. This is absolutely the most successful Matrix movie, but also was at the time the most successful R-rated movie in history. It surpassed the 19-year-old record holder, Beverly Hills Cop, from 1984. And despite the fact that it replaced a record holder that had been there for 19 years, it was then replaced less than a year later by The Passion of the Christ. So,
arguably another film to show in an RE lesson.
Yeah, yeah. So, Chris, we've reached Cars Exist. Cars Exist. Cars Exist a bit different.
You have reached your destination.
Oh, that's good. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed that. It's a bit different. It's not just this car is in the movie. There's some actual car-related trivia. Like, genuine. Like, this is actually one of the first times in a while I've seen some car-related trivia and gone, that deserved to be there. It's not just, here's the model of the car in the movie. So GM, General Motors, donated 300 cars for use in the production of this movie. I assume they expected a certain amount of them to return. All 300 were wrecked during production.
Shit.
They just crashed them all in the Freeway Chase, or had an agent jump on the bonnet, or 300 cars, a lot of cars to blow up.
Yeah.
The Merovingian's garage contains 18 different Cadillacs, but all from different time periods. So apparently in Australia, they went to the Cadillac Association of New South Wales, which is some sort of group of people who all own Cadillacs, and everyone brought their cars in. The problem was that obviously in Australia, they drive on the right-hand side, so they had to attach fake steering wheels into most of the cars on the right side and then cover up the original steering wheel.
Wow.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
That's crazy. Yeah, that's a shit ton of work.
10 points to the production crew for going to that effort. Because quite frankly, Chris, I wouldn't have fucking noticed, but hey-ho.
Yeah, I was going to say, shame it's then overridden by a shitload of dodgy CGI, but still.
Yeah, because let's be honest, I would not have been sat there going, wait a minute. America's a left-hand drive country. These steering wheels are on the wrong side. You know, it would not have been a concern.
Holds up a fist.
Yeah. Yeah. Obama! Bloody Obama. Thanks, Obama. At it again. Anyway, because the twins' Cadillac Escalade was not actually in production at the time of the movie's filming, General Motors grafted together a fiberglass Cadillac from parts from a prototype to create the sort of black trucks that they use in the Freeway Chase. The Lincoln Continental that appeared in the first movie makes a brief cameo towards the beginning of the film. The underground garage where the characters select a car is obviously, as I've already mentioned, is all Cadillacs. I've got the list of all the models of the Cadillacs. Am I going through this? Shall I do this? All the Cadillacs from the Merovingian's garage?
Well, how long is it going to take you?
I don't know, a minute, two.
All right, go on. Why not?
Go on. All right, we have a 37 Model 60 V8. We have two 57 Eldorado Burazzis, I think I'm pronouncing that right, a black hardtop and silver convertible, a 63 Eldorado, a 66 Eldorado, they're convertibles only, there were no hardtops of those models, a 69 and 71 Eldorado convertible, the aforementioned EXT, and a pre-production model of the 2004 XLR. The second row has, in order, a 1933 LaSalle Model 345C, which is identifiable from a shot in the fight scene of the first row. The rest of the second car rows are a little harder to identify. There are at least 3 DeVilles and one from 70 and 76. People suspect there's a 73 DeVille there as well as the 81 and 84 sedan DeVille, potentially a Fleetwood, or possibly a late 90s Catera. That is the most Cars Exist has ever gotten.
No, the most Cars Exist has ever gotten is still the Italian Job. Yeah. The whole trivia was basically Cars Exist. Just a quick thought. Just the whole rebuilding a car because it's not come out yet. I don't get why films go to such effort to have like the latest models of cars, because it's only it's only when it's released in cinemas that's relevant, and then it's out of date anyway. So
I mean, I can tell you, I have the answer if you want the answer. If you're curious,
yeah, go on.
GM donated 300 cars for use in the production.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, of course.
So the car companies give them the cars for no cost on the grounds of, you'll promote our cars.
It's like, do you remember that opening scene? I think it's of The Philosopher's Stone, where it basically it's an overhead shot it's an aerial view shot of Pivot Drive, and every car in the drive is the same make.
I didn't notice that. That's so funny.
Yeah,
that's great.
I can't remember what they are. Let me see if I can look it up.
That's so good.
Drive cars.
That is so good.
In the film adaptation, all of the cars on Privet Drive, including the one owned by the Dursleys, are the same model, a circa 2000 Vauxhall Vectra estate.
That's amazing.
Bearing in mind that the film is also meant to technically be set in the story is set in 1991, sorry. But I suppose, to be fair, the films don't really follow that timeline.
Yeah. No, they don't.
But yeah, they're all identical.
We're there, Chris. We did it. Congratulations. I'd shake your hand, but you're not here.
Sweet. Let's not. Yeah, we're not doing the war. We'll do the Matrix Revolutions, Dan. Why not?
Yeah. Why not finish this? So, any final thoughts? I think it is. There's a good movie in there. Is I think how I would describe this one. And I fear that the third one is a real mess.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great ideas. I don't think it's aged particularly brilliantly. I don't think a lot of those ideas are executed that well. It is still a roller coaster. It is still fun. It's still enjoyable to watch. But it didn't... My prediction of, I think we're going to like it a lot more than we think we will, didn't come true, I have to be honest.
No,
that's
I'm exactly the same. Yeah, it was a slow dawning realization watching this movie that wasn't going to come to pass.
Yeah, I was literally like, oh shit. But who knows? Maybe the third will be better than we think.
I'm less confident.
Yeah, as am I.
Yeah, but thanks everyone for listening. As always, you can hear the next episode now by just going over to the Patreon. Give it as little as $1 a month. It'll already be up. We always put up episodes a week early on the Patreon of both this and our other podcast, Analyzing Avatar. You can get us on YouTube, youtube.com/NothingButStaticUK, where you can subscribe and like and all that stuff. If you don't want to give us financial support, you can just support us by heading to YouTube and liking and subscribing, or you can head over to the the other thing, the podcast platform of your choice, iTunes, Google Play, whatever, Spotify, and using whatever system they have to like and review the podcast. Don't actually bother reviewing the podcast, though. I think that's boring. Maybe just tell me about your favourite Rewind review. Tell me in the reviews what movies have a special place in your heart for one reason or another that you go back to. Or did you go back to a movie recently and it turned out wasn't as good as you remember? Tell us about that too. It's a great way to use
absolutely.
the reviews.
We'd love and it might inspire future reviews.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited. These episodes have only just started out. We record these in advance for listeners, and the Beetlejuice one has just gone up when we're recording this. And I'm really excited because it's only this series we've really told people to review the podcast that way, and I'm really excited to go back through and listen to some of them. Sorry, did I say listen? Read some of them. Losing my mind. Anyway, yeah, you can also get us on Twitter. I'm at Dan Doolan. Chris is at C Billingham with 2 M's at the end of Billingham. And I think that is actually everything now. He says, not being sure. Yeah, why not?
No, I think that's everything.
We'll call that everything. I'll let Chris do the wrap up without stepping on it this time.
No worries. My name's Chris Billingham.
My name's Dan Doolan.
And this review has been rewound.
That was different. My names.
Huh?
You did my names. It felt wrong.
I know, it did feel wrong. Do you want to do it again?
We can if you want.
Let's do it again. I've been Chris Billingham.
I've been Dan Doolan.
And this review has been rewound.
But yeah.
I don't know why we keep doing little extra bits on this podcast now as well, but Dan, I've just sent you a WhatsApp of the screenshot of Pivot Drive. Give it a look. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, there it is. Along with a text from work. Oh my god. They've tried, bless them, they've tried. Because the first
different colours.
The first one is silver, and the end one is red. But what they really needed to do was swap the third one along, the other blue one, with the silver one. So it would have been a lot less noticeable, but that's still very noticeable.
Maybe some are reversed in, or maybe some are like parked over the, in front of the grass.
I mean, I guess they just thought, oh, that'll be like a funny joke, like they've all got the same car in suburbia or something. Maybe, but yeah, dear Lord, that's horrendous.
It's great, isn't it? Yeah. Bye.
All right. Well, that was a fun part for our audio podcast. Me looking at a picture you can't see, listeners. Hope you enjoyed it. Chris has just told me he stopped recording. It's just me talking to myself now. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that I got to say that, Chris, and express myself. Goodbye.